Today, we're looking at the SFK battery, the SunFunKit batteries. If you haven't looked at them before, you've probably never seen an RV battery like this. I'm gonna unpack everything that they do different and what that means for RV. So let's not waste any time, let's get started. So let's dive in and look at the quick specs on this battery. That way we know what the base is, and then we can look at what's different and unique about this battery. So this is an American-built 300 amp hour heated battery with Victron communication, Bluetooth, active balance, 1500 watts out continuous, in a compact package weighing in at 57.7 pounds. So in a nutshell, it's a compact, high capacity, feature packed, American made battery, and the price just dropped to 25 cents a watt hour. But I wanted to start off with the kind of the number one thing that makes this battery different. There's a handful of things, but the first thing that comes to mind on this one is that it's upgradable, it's updatable, it's more than serviceable, it's customizable. Here's what I mean by that. I've had a lot of people request that I review this battery, but they're more than just a battery company. They actually sell kits. You can build your own batteries through them if you wanted to. So they're one of the very few batteries that actually welcome you to open up the case. I mean, look at this right here in the manual. They give you instructions for opening up the case and working on the battery. Yes, other batteries that I've reviewed in the past are serviceable. I've had to replace the BMS on an SOK before, but this one's actually customizable. I got this actually at the end of last summer, and there's another version out that has more features packed into here, but I can get the module in order to upgrade this and kind of future-proof it, bring it more up to date than what it was when it was originally built. Now let's get this connected to an inverter because there's some unique things in the Bluetooth app as well. So we're gonna connect this to a 24 volt inverter because we have two of them. Now, as a side note, these batteries can be set up in 24, 36, and 48 volt settings for the series connection, and that's where we're gonna connect it. Series, so we have two batteries connected in series for this 24 volt inverter. Now, if you are planning a system that's gonna be 24 or 48 volt system, it's better to get a battery that matches your inverter. It's like having the right tool for the right job. Okay, so here's the app. And the things that I love and don't love about the Bluetooth on batteries, it's a nice feature to be able to have, but as far as using it all the time, it's not something that I go into unless I'm really wanting to check on the details of the battery. And so if I want to check on the system when the batteries are charging or we're off grid using the inverter, I'm going to go to the Victron equipment that we have, the smart shunt, the GX device. It's going to give me the picture of the entire system. But the way that I look at Bluetooth for batteries, you're really wanting to dive in and kind of see the details in there. And this app does give you more settings. So you're going to go ahead and scan. And like I said, sometimes going into these Bluetooth apps can be just a little bit time consuming and clunky. Takes a little bit to scan. Then you can select a battery and then you can connect to it. You might be able to get to this information quicker through the Victron equipment, but once it pulls it up, gives you all the information. You can go through the different menus, you can change some of the parameters, you can test the heating pads inside of the batteries. So very helpful things inside of this app. The one thing that I do like, if we go back to the scanning, you can actually group these together. So like here we have two in series. So when you select multiple batteries, it's gonna ask you how those are connected. Is it series or parallel? For here, 24 volt system, we're in series. So you select that, then you can go into the settings and you can change it to be a virtual battery. So rather than having to go through that process every time, you can have that virtual battery down here at the bottom, and then you can just connect to that virtual battery, and it's gonna pull it up for both the batteries information in one spot. I really like that because when you have multiple batteries in a battery bank and you're trying to check the details of each battery, you have to go in and out of each battery. But here you can have those all displayed on one screen, and you can just scroll up and down it and not have to waste time trying to figure out which battery you're looking at. You can just look at them all right there. With that said, because it has Victron communication, a majority of this is accessible connecting it to a Venus or a GX device. And then you can just access it through there. Now, there are also more settings in this app than are typical. So you can scroll down, you can see them. Even for the heating modes, you have a low temp charging, you have a standby heating, or you can even disable the heating for low temp protection only. And at this point, everything was testing great until I got to the capacity test. So this is something I wasn't quite expecting. We're at just over 250 amp hours drawn for the capacity test, and the BMS shut it down, which is surprising because the voltage wasn't even getting close to dropping. So there must be another setting in here. Okay, the state of charge, I had that set not to 0. So that was shutting it off. So I also noticed that there's a discrepancy between what the battery says is left for capacity and what we've actually drawn out of it if we're going to be hitting 300 amp hours. So we'll see what the difference is there. The battery is saying we're going to run out before we actually hit 300 amp hours. We'll see if the BMS lets us go all the way. And I was pleased to see after running the test that it did pull more than the 300 amp hours for capacity. So now that brings us to one more thing that I think SFK does a lot different than other battery manufacturers out there. And if you're shopping for batteries out there, I do have a battery buyer's guide, because to me, it really doesn't matter which battery you end up with as long as it suits you and your needs. With information like space, weight, features, where the support comes from, at all different price points, even all the way down to, I think, $160 for a 100 amp hour battery. Which, if you're just trying to get away from lead acid and do something simple, that's a pretty hard price to pass up. And then I also have diagrams of systems that I've put together for inverters and solar. And so those are free to download. As you're designing your own system, you could see what I have done, and you have the equipment on the side there. So if you're looking for some of that equipment, it's kind of all right there. So those two resources, battery buyer's guide and diagrams for systems that I have done. But something that's different with SFK is on the side here, you can see they have information on the individual cells on the inside of this battery. Not just what types of cells they are, but the actual cells with the serial numbers on there, and the test that they put this through before they sent it out. They tested it to make sure that it had the continuous watt out and the maximum capacity test, the minimum capacity test, making sure that it can deliver the 300 amp hours that it's promising. And on here, you can see that their cells are a certified automotive grade. So there's actually a certification process to the grade A cells that they put in here. A lot of times I think battery manufacturers will advertise an A cell and you end up getting a B cell, but you're not really going to know that for a very long time. So it's something that they really pay attention to, and they put it through the test, and they actually have the cells that they put in here meet a certain criteria, have the documentation to make sure that they are certified. And I don't think that you get that with every battery that is out there. Oh, another thing that I noticed with this battery was on the inside, I haven't seen this with any other battery manufacturer out there, is the 3D printed components that are in here for being able to mount the BMS on the top, or just some of the structural elements on the inside. They're 3D printed, and they actually have those files online. So if you wanted to go and print any of these other ones, or if you were swapping out the BMS to something different and you needed to change that bracket, you can actually print that if you wanted to. And I don't know if it's because some of those components are 3D printed, but inside the manual, it tells you not to have this battery in any other orientation than vertical. So I know there are some other lithium batteries out there where you can put them on their side, you can put them on their end, you can use them in different orientations. This one, they want the terminals facing up. You shouldn't lay it down on the side. You shouldn't put it upside down. You shouldn't put it on its end. That's the orientation that they want to have it in. So that's something you'd want to consider as you're looking at batteries and trying to fit it into the space that you have. This is the orientation that it needs to be in for this. So this isn't the only battery that they have. They do have 24 volt versions. They have a 275 amp hour version. So there's a few different things that are out there. And I do know that they're coming out with some new features like Wi-Fi packed into some of these batteries. So more connectivity, more options. Overall, it's a very solid battery that is very capable with kind of all the bells and whistles packed into one unit. Kind of an interesting mix between a DIY and a pre-built battery. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for today. Hope this information helps you out, kind of doing a dive into what makes SFK different. So as always, if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will. See you next video. Take care.